What's up? What's up, my people? Welcome to my crib again, makeshift studio. I'm running solo today, but I got an amazing guest. But before I say all of that and what it is that this show is about, let me tell you. If you don't know this show, you better know it now. It is called The Brick. We talked about it a while ago. It's not about criticizing and talking about the best stuff that's going on out there. It's really just finding the people who are really doing some stuff or some things that are out there to improve basketball. And what we're trying to do really is to try and find these people, bring them out to the show, talk about what it is that they're doing for the, excuse me, do talk about what it is that they're doing for basketball. And that's why we call it the break. What's your break? What is it that you are bringing to basketball to build this game that we love so much? Today's guest is, and I got my phone too so that I can check what it is that I've put together with little notes. This is becoming really serious. It's not as easy as it was, but it's getting serious. But also, it's kind of hot, so I've kind of toned down with the little dress code. So don't mind that for now. We got Gareth Jasson, who's going to be joining us. The man has been working hard, and I know he's been also been having some critics talking a lot about what it is that he's doing and shouldn't be doing. But you know what? What's the best way to do this is to bring the guy to the show and he gets to talk about what it is that he's been doing. And if you got some questions, you can post them up on the show, on social media, on Let's Talk Basketball. You can comment and hey, who knows, man? Maybe some of the things that you thought were a certain way are not necessarily that way. Right now, it really is about what is it that he's doing that is good. If you can find anything that is bad, hey, tell us. But you better get your story right. We need to know that you know what it is that you're talking about, and it's not some rumor that is happening out there. And we find ourselves arguing about some stupid stuff. But right now, Gareth, he's a tournament director appointed by Basketball South Africa, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that too. And also, I don't know if you've seen in the social media, there was a letter that came out of Gauteng Sports Confederation, and essentially him and Neo Mutiba, one of the top basketball players in South Africa, have been appointed as administrators of Gauteng Basketball Association. Obviously, there's a lot of work to be done there. We cannot not have Basketball South Africa, or at least basketball in Gauteng, not functioning, because essentially this is the heart and the engine of basketball in South Africa. So this is going to be an amazing, amazing, amazing interview. So without further ado, Mr. Gareth Jasson, can we find out from our amazing, amazing crew, the basketball sheriff and the rest of the crew, please let me know if Gareth is there. Hello, Gareth, are you there?
Hey, how you, Cabby?
How are you doing, sir? You well?
Uh, well, a little bit under the weather today. My second COVID vaccination, so yeah, the normal effects. So
Oh, oh.
I I was a bit stuck today, but hey, we got to make time for you, right?
Gotta make time for basketball even after you take that vaccination, right? And it's a good thing
That's
that you're
it.
doing it because that's what the world needs, even though some people don't believe in it. It is what it is, and that's what the world needs.
Yeah, no, most definitely, most definitely. We got to go out there and do stuff. So I mean, when we talk about your show, and you talk about the fact that it's called the brick and what the brick means. I mean, it resonates.
I
It's
love it.
so I wouldn't have missed this show for the world.
Ah, thank you so much, man. So we call it the break under vaccination. Love it, man. We must vaccinate those bricks too. Yeah, man. I'm glad you really made time for us, and I hope those side effects, if there are any, I didn't get any side effects. I mean, literally, I was playing ball the same day I vaccinated, got my two shots ready for the world. So I'd like to think that it's just probably fatigue from running around. I mean, you must be one busy man with this basketball qualifiers happening.
Yeah, it's not just basketball qualifiers. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things happening.
Yeah.
There's the basketball qualifiers. There is the women's national club champs. There
Wow.
is we're looking at the coaching training that needs to happen. Looking at the junior RPTs that need to happen. There's so much that needs to happen, and yeah, we obviously need to make sure these things happen.
Yeah, before we jump into it. Tell us about how you colloquially, hey, English. You're colloquially known as the conflicted Rottweiler. Tell us about that. And I'm sure the reason why a
Well,
lot of people are watching is because of that, right?
so yeah, I actually haven't been called the conflicted Rottweiler. I was called the conflicted Bulldog
Yeah.
on Let's Talk. So, oddly enough, I've actually stopped commenting there, but I do watch and I do read what people write. And I thought that was rather funny. So the only thing I said to you was, I don't want to be known as a bulldog. I'd rather be known as a Rottweiler. I like Rottweilers more than bulldogs.
But why did they say that?
So, look, I think people have got their opinions about certain things. One of the things that's happening now is that with this whole Gauteng GBA issue, people now are making assumptions, and they may or may not be the right assumptions. But that's why people now saying that the comment actually read, Gauteng Sports Confederation in Basketball South Africa is deploying their conflicted uh, bulldog to Gauteng Basketball Association, and that's actually what the comment read. So if that's what people want to say, then great, say it, right? Now the interesting thing for me is always that you read the posts, and the funny thing always with social media is that it tends to be more negative than positive. But even in that, you get people who are coming out there and actually making positive comments, and that's a good thing. And that obviously is where we want to get to. But we all know social media, it's not face to face. People are keyboard warriors, and they end up saying things which they probably wouldn't say to me face to face. Of course, there are some people who'd say that to me face to face, and it's fun. I live with that. But yeah, that's where we sit.
Yeah, and that it's a very dangerous game people play. If you do not know facts and you're just making assumptions, and it starts to go from one person to the next to the next to the next, it could end up as something that can really really affect your um, um, in legal terms they call it what do they call it in legal terms when they're messing around, defamation of character, and that on its own, I wonder if people feel that is the way to do things, because the more you lose people from feeling like you're trying to do a good thing, and you end up being attacked like that, you end up losing people who are willing to do things on the ground, right?
Well, look, I think somebody said it quite well for me. They said, unfortunately, in basketball in South Africa, you've got a bunch of gatekeepers. And the gatekeepers are the ones who want to keep basketball and control basketball, and everything must happen through them. And I
Yeah.
think we're really seeing that because unfortunately, and I've been accused of trying to create a dual empire for myself, and that's fun. I don't have an issue with that. But the point being is all I'm interested in is to get stuff done. I'm not
Right.
interested in politicking. I'm not interested in having long discussions about who's right or who's wrong. What I'm interested in is getting things done. And I mean, if you look at the Gauteng Junior District games, that's exactly what happened. People were upset, and there was issues with Western basketball and Ikuruleni and etc. etc. At the end of the day, what happened? We delivered on the mandate. What was the mandate? The mandate was to have the games and to select a Gauteng team. It's as
Right.
simple as it gets, right? So, and it's not that it was done in isolation. There were some very credible people involved, and this is the thing that often gets missed with regards to these events, because person X isn't doing it now. Suddenly, it's a problem, but they forget exactly who's involved and what exactly happened. And yeah, sometimes I kind of think that maybe I should go onto social media and say, hey, this is what's happening. But we can't go and prosecute these things through social media. What I said to people very clearly, guys, if you got a problem, call me. I will talk to you. I mean, I saw you, when was it, last week?
Yeah.
And I saw you last week, and we had a conversation, and we spoke about a lot of things. And I'm more than happy to talk to people about these things. But we shouldn't use social media to prosecute or to try and run basketball in this country. It's a very bad precedent.
Speaking of which, so you were appointed, or exactly what went down around the BAL qualifiers, organizing of events and the rest of it? Because,
Yeah.
anybody and everybody would think, okay, this is the function that Basketball South Africa, the federation, is supposed to do. But Gareth is not necessarily in Basketball South Africa, but somehow he manages to go out there and actually, um, does the event management of the entire thing. How did it come about? Because obviously, without it coming from you, and that information about basketball is very, very tough to come by, at least coming out of the federation. Just give us the background of exactly what went down.
So I think to get that answer, you need to step back. Okay?
Right.
So earlier this year, there was a call for school sports to send a basketball team for a school basketball team to the International School Sports Federation event.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to hear about this. And literally the day I got to hear about this, I thought about it and I said, you know what, I don't mean to be funny, but I do not think that the skills to get this thing done is currently sitting within Basketball South Africa. So I actually got on the phone. I called the guys from BSA and I said to them, listen, what's your plan?
And by the guys, by the
do?
guys, you mean who? You must have spoken to someone specifically.
Spoke to the president, spoke to the secretary general, and I said, what is your plan? Who is actually taking charge of this? Who is actually doing this? And, the answer came back and said, well, we're trying to find somebody. We're trying to get this thing done. And I said to them, okay, great. Let me give you a proposal. So I gave them a proposal. They liked the proposal. And that's literally how I got involved. Now, it's a bit of a sad story because ultimately school sports then pulled out due to COVID. And they then stopped the whole process with regards to the ISSF games. And, quite often, people will post on Let's Talk and say, what happened to these games? Well, that's what happened. So Basketball South Africa never had the money to do that. They never had the mandate to do it outside of what happened with schools. And when schools pulled out, the funding went away, and that was what happened. Now, we're going to ask, well, what are we going to do about it? Doing something about it comes later when we talk about the IPTs that we are looking to plan. But bottom line is that then effectively went away. But at that stage, we'd already done quite a lot of work. We'd done the district events in some of the provinces, and people had actually already started preparing. And what then happened is BSA then came along and said, well, look, we really like what's happened here. We like the fact that, you're managing this well. Are you interested in managing the BAL qualifiers? And I said to them, guys, let's just be clear. The way I look at this isn't BAL qualifiers. This is national club champs. And if we're talking about national club champs, what's happening with the women, and are the two things the same? And I think that's where sometimes we run into problems, within our sport, because we tend to focus on one thing being, this is BAL, but it's not BAL. I don't get where we missed out on, the bragging rights for somebody to win the national men's club champs.
Right.
But our focus isn't there. Our focus is on road to BAL, and for me that's a little bit of a problem. But in any event, we leave it at that. And, I then did a proposal, not just for the men, but for the women as well. That is why you saw that the proposals came out and they were literally a week apart. So the men's proposal went out and it actually stated very clearly, this is the national men's club champs. Okay, whatever happens afterwards, it's a different story, but this is national men's club champs. And then a week later, the proposal went out for the women, and you can see it was exactly the same. I'm a bit disappointed with how the women has turned out, but how the men turned out, I think, was great. So,
what's the disappointment with the women?
Well, we had the conference happening for the women, the conference phase happening for the women. And we can talk about obviously just the different levels just now, but the conference phase happened this past weekend. So you had two teams from Gauteng playing against one team from Limpopo. You had two teams from Mpumalanga playing against no teams from KZN. There were supposed to be teams from KZN. You had no teams from Northern Cape. You had no teams from Free State. So the Northwest team got a direct entry, and they had no teams from Eastern Cape and no teams from Western Cape. I mean, that's just disappointing, right?
Isn't it funding got to do with everything? Because it sounds to me like these teams are supposed to fund themselves to come to the championships, isn't it?
That's correct. So the point around it being is that there are different stages of funding, okay? And the reason there are different stages of funding is because there isn't this universal pot of funding that's available. So very often you hear on Let's Talk, the guys will say, oh, government should pay, BSA should pay, somebody should pay. Now the question is who pays? Now me and you are both business people, right? We know that in order to get funding for these things, you've got to have a viable, valid product. And if you've got a viable, valid product, then you can work on this. So Limpopo, for instance, one of the things they did was, they approached their local Department of Sports and Rec at the provincial level, and they arranged for funding to travel.
Right.
And that's just what needed to happen, because the funding doesn't exist at the BA level. So it would have been great, okay, great, Gareth, there's 30 million, go off and sort yourself out, right? Deliver for us the men's national club champs, deliver for us the women's national club champs, deliver for us the under 17 qualify or trials, deliver for us the junior RPTs. I'd have shaken everybody's hand, and I would have gone off and gotten all of that stuff done, and nobody would have paid a cent. But that's not the truth of the matter.
Right.
So even the under 17 national trials that happened, 2 weeks ago? Okay. Each province had to go off and scrimp and save and try and find the money in order to send these kids to trials. So in Gauteng, what did we do? We went off, we spoke to the Gauteng Department of Sports. They managed to cover our transport. Okay. What then happened from there is we then managed to get some donations from some of the parents. Some of the other parents made payments, and we managed to send the whole team. And that's just what happened for all of the provinces.
Wow.
So there's not and this is my concern, right? At times, people seem to think there exists this pot of 50, 60 million rand that BSA has got access to, and that's just not true. So back to your original question, I haven't forgotten about that. So back to your original question, how did I get to be appointed? I literally put my hand up.
Right.
Put a proposal in. The powers that be, call it that, like the proposal. I then delivered against the proposal. They recognized that, and then they asked me to do more. So as we're moving along, the BAL, for instance, now the BAL event is going to happen next week. But now I'm getting asked to do more. And, we do need to get to a point, because, the point needs to be where we are bringing in other people. We are making sure that we are exposing people to organizing these events, and we're doing those things. And I say that despite the fact that literally we're now sitting on 2-3 events at the national level. So, it shouldn't, to the point, just be up to me, and that is not where it's up to. But how did I get there? I put my hand up. So living that motto, what did you say? One brick at a time, right?
Right. I suppose the reason why I asked this question is the head of the competition commission, Zoran, who we spoke to last week on the show. Not sure if you were watching. He just resigned from Samba, and he obviously is not happy about with how things are run. One of the things that he mentioned to me outside of the show was to say, he's part of the coaching commission. He's head of the coaching commission. There's people, not the coaching, the competition commission. Sorry,
competitions commission.
And no one said anything. All he heard was that Gareth is running with this. So I suppose from your perspective, you wouldn't have known what the processes would be within the federation for approval to be given to you to run with us?
So yes, that was a consideration. And what Zoran also should have told you is that myself and Charles Saunders had a meeting with him to talk about this and to get his input and to make sure that we're on board with what the competition commission is was busy doing. The unfortunate bit, I think, is that with regards to the competition commission, there was some how shall I put it? They didn't really plan for these things that we're talking about, and the planning then came out when I got involved. So we did look to include Zoran, from a planning perspective, and at the time he also indicated that he was quite busy, recovering from COVID, etc., and he didn't specifically have the time to invest in this.
Oh,
So I think that's also one of the things, remember that this is it's a voluntary organization. It's a voluntary thing. So
right.
I hold down a day job, right? That's just what happens. So I do my day job. I've got a family, and then I sit at night and I do these things. We all come. We're all going to make choices with how we spend our time. And I think it's important that when you then make the commitment and you're going to do the stuff, that we spend our time responsibly and we then get these things done.
So anybody would ask, why is Gareth putting his hand up for something that does not have any kind of money value, or unless it's something that you thinking in the future you'd obviously be the preferred person to do this when the money's
No,
there?
no. So again, I'm going to take you back to why I got involved with basketball. Now, oddly enough, the first time I played basketball was when I got to university. I got to WITS in 1992, and I started playing basketball then. And the reason I started playing basketball is because I used to play volleyball, and the WITS volleyball club was quite cliquey at that time. So you look at the fact that you could get progression or not progression in that club, and I felt I wasn't going to get progression, so I chose to go play a different sport. At that time, I then was involved for my time in Varsity. I was involved for a couple of years afterwards, and then I stopped playing basketball altogether. I started playing action soccer. I know you wouldn't you wouldn't say to look at me now, okay? And I played action cricket.
You're a funny guy.
And then, and then in 2012, I actually got retrenched, and I had quite a lot of time on my hands. And I live reasonably close to Corinthians Sports Club. It's in Linksfield.
Yeah.
And I went past there, and there were two sections. There was the basketball section, and there was the volleyball section. And I wanted to sign up, and I couldn't get hold of the guy on the volleyball section. And I went to my daughter's school, and I spoke to, we were having an event there, and one of the guys actually said, "Hey, have you got how's your basketball going?" And I said, I was thinking about basketball. Let me actually join your team, and that's how I got involved. Now, the other interesting bit is when I get involved in things, I don't just sit there and let it happen. I need to try and drive some of these things. So the first question I asked when I joined the team, and it was called Software Architects, run by a guy called Denzel Phillips. And I asked the question, well, what league do we play? I mean, it's a normal question, right?
Yeah.
And the answer was, well, we play in ICSL and we play in the Betusili tournament. And I said, but wait a minute, isn't there a Joburg league? So that was what, 2012, right? 2013, around there. And Denzel stepped back. I took over the team. We changed the name to BWA. And I kept on asking this question, guys, surely we need to have a Joburg league. And I started engaging with people around, but how do we get this Joburg league going? Because I wasn't happy with the fact that we were going to play ICSL for 3 months, and then there was a tournament here or there. We needed to play more basketball. This was where we were, right? And eventually I teamed up with Elvis, Elvis from that side, and we tried for 2 years to start the Joburg Basketball League. via the Joburg Association. I remember meeting, he used to teach at a school, I can't remember the school's name, just other side JP Street. And we met there once or twice, tried to invite people to start the association, and it just didn't work. And then eventually we got, I had a chat with Andile and with Tao and a couple of other people. And then we called a meeting, which we held at Wanderers. And that was the start of the GBA. So, as we know it today, obviously the GBA was there before, and the GBA was then became defunct as such, but the GBA then started at that point. And oddly enough, I didn't want to be elected. I didn't want to. I'm not that kind of person. I always say it's kissing babies, and that's not for me. I'm a doer. I do stuff, and you'll see it in the kind of career I've chosen. It's a doing career. I'm not a CEO. I don't lead a company. I do stuff at the back end. That's what I do. And because nobody else wanted to kind of have the presidency or the chairperson of the GBA, kind of fell to me, and that's where we sat. And then post that we looked at, and it was running, and we all everybody did the things. But post that we then looked at the GBA and said, right, well, you know what, we've got the GBA there. It's not functioning as it should do. What are we going to do about it? And that's then where we said, right, we now need to go off and get the GBA sorted out. And we actually did a motion of no confidence against the GBA leaders at the time. And that's how the GBA got to be under administration. And then, there was a whole call around who was going to be elected for the GBA and all the rest of it. And, eventually it was decided by the GBA members that I should be the treasurer, and that was fine. And then, a year later, after no action, I said, well, guys, you know what? I'm actually just going to step back from this whole thing. And, you get to the point where when things are not working, maybe you want to reassess and you want to step back and look at it. It's the same as with the GBA. Yes, I was the chairperson of the GBA. It had a very successful run. And you've got to then step back and say, right, let somebody else lead. Let somebody else run. Let somebody else gain that experience. And that's kind of a motto of mine. You mentor, you help, and you flow through it like that. So in asking, what do I want out of this? I want people to play basketball. That was my primary reason for agitating for the GBA in the first place, for agitating for the league. I want people to play basketball, and I want them to play basketball all the time. And if you look at my involvement with the juniors, that's exactly what it is. The under-17s happened. I didn't go with the team. Other people went with the team, but they were there. I was making sure that they got sent off. I was making sure that they could go. That was the important bit. So for me, it is very much around that, making sure that everybody gets to play, especially the kids.
Right. So essentially, this is something that you would call your social responsibility project? Passion project.
My wife calls it my black tax project.
Black tax. We all got black tax.
Yeah, so some of us don't necessarily have from a family perspective, and I'll say that I'm blessed from that perspective. My parents, were quite, they were very prudent, so I don't have that issue. But yes, this is my social responsibility and my black tax project.
All right. I'll tell you what, Gareth, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll definitely be back. We just want to make sure that things are running real nice and smooth technically. But so far, you've been clear. You've been amazing. Really nice chatting. So just we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back.
Shout out to Basketball Sheriff.
right, welcome back. If you missed some of the show, we are talking to Gareth Jasson, and he is being, we're talking about exactly how he became the administrator of, well, for now, not the administrator of GBA, which is something that we're going to be covering, but we've been talking about the fact that he has been appointed as the organizer of the BAL, Basketball African League qualifiers that are happening on the 18th to the 24th, I believe. And we're just trying to find out what kind of a man he is and all the things that are involved in basketball. So if you haven't been listening, right now is a good time to tune in. Gareth, are you still with us?
I am, Cabby, I am.
Well, welcome back to the show, my man. So I heard about your Black Text projects. Maybe it's time to talk about other things. It's time to talk about other things as well, man. I got so many questions for you. In fact, it's actually good. It's good that I don't have too many guys here in the studio because I'm sure they would also be throwing questions and wanting to talk about other things. I think we have dedicated this entire show to talk about this because of the importance of Gauteng Basketball League and the importance of the club championships, both men and women, but of course the BAL qualifiers, because it is the buzzword right now. Everybody wants to see what's happening in BAL. Everybody wants to play there. The players are seeing now contracts have been, people are signing into contracts with big teams. And yes, whether we like it or not, this is the buzz thing. BAL is the thing. So we'll continue talking about it, and but we shouldn't forget about all the other good things that are happening in the background. So going into the GBA appointment, tell us a little bit about that. I mean, obviously you touched on it. You touched on the fact that things haven't been going well at GBA level, and you've been involved in Joburg Basketball League. And now, a letter came out from the Gauteng Sports Confederation that you and Neo Mutiba are now appointed as the administrators. Did you even know that was coming? Did you know it's going to be the two of you? Did you know that, had you had chats with Neo in terms of what it is that you plan to do with GBA? What is the plan? I mean, take us through that.
So unfortunately, I haven't had the opportunity to chat to Neo yet this week. So I need to schedule some time with him and talk to him. Unfortunately, it's just been very hectic. Not just with BAL, but there's a whole bunch of things. We've got the Sonchini games coming up. I'm very heavily involved with that. We've got the Women's National Club Champs, so a little bit difficult to get the time. But that's just life, and we need to schedule this. In terms of did we know that was going to happen, the answer to that is yes. It was discussed. You don't just get appointed as an administrator. These things are discussed. The question that most people probably want to know is why? Why did it happen? Okay, right. And why did we not have elections? So I said a very simple thing to a lot of people. I had a chat with Kimati, for instance, and I said to him, the question we've got to ask is why did the GBA elections not happen on the 26th of June?
Right.
I mean, that was the date, right? 26th of June. It was published. It was there. Why didn't it happen? And it's a simple matter. The GBA elections didn't happen because there were only 2 RSVPs to the meeting for the elective event.
Jeez.
Okay, I'm going to say that again.
Yeah.
Okay? There were only 2 RSVPs to the elective event that was supposed to happen on the 26th.
And where were they supposed to be held?
They were supposed to be held at the Gauteng Sports Confederation offices with a virtual link, because remember it was still COVID.
Right.
So, yeah.
So we didn't have any problems with travels and all of that, because if it's virtual, all you have to do is just have internet. So we can't blame travel. We can't blame money. We can't blame any of that stuff. All they have to do is just to show up.
Well, the first thing you got to do is say, I'm going to show up.
Correct.
So, for any of these events, what is very important is the RSVP to say, yes, as a district, as an associate member, we are actually going to show up. And the second thing that's very important is that you've got to then say, here's my my credentials letter. People call it letters of credence, but here's my credentials letter, right?
And the emails, the invitational emails were sent by who?
Gauteng Sports Confederation.
And was sent, so it's under the assumption that all these district associations are operational and they have a person receiving an email on the other side.
Correct.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm going to use Joburg's basketball because that's a simple matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the president of Joburg basketball is on that email. I've seen the email. I mean, I got a copy of it sent to me. During the process, I was copied in because there was the assumption that I was going to be standing for elections. And the Secretary General of Joburg basketball received that email. So both of them received the email, and that's it. That I can tell you for a fact.
Right.
The question then is why was there no response to that email? Why did somebody from Joburg basketball not send an email back and say, guys, we are actually going to attend, and this is who is going to attend on behalf of Johannesburg Basketball Association?
At that time, who was the chairperson?
Tal's chairperson and Lesego was the Secretary General.
Okay, so both of them received the email.
Both of them received the email. Okay. Now we go to the next. After the fact, people had a lot to say about it. There was questions of marching, etc. And I asked a simple question. So I said, guys, tell me now very specifically, if you can give me a copy of that email that you sent, I will go and fight the fight with Gauteng Sports Confederation. I'm prepared to do that. Mm-hmm. So send me that email, and I will go and fight with them to say, guys, you are disadvantaging people by your actions. So now I'm going to ask you a simple question. Do you think I've received an email from any of the 5 districts that was involved in that process to show that they have actually
responded to say
they had actually responded to say they're going to be showing up? I mean, it's a simple question, right? It's not hard.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've not received any of that. So it's very important to note that the 26th of June was the opportunity for the districts and the associate members to elect a new GBA executive.
And tell me, at that time, you were acting as what in the GBA or in the entire process?
I wasn't acting as anything. So the Gauteng Sports Confederation responded to a list of nominees that was sent by Joburg Basketball, and my name was on that as the treasurer for Gauteng Basketball Association.
Okay. So you were just facilitating the process.
Yeah.
Just to try. So
it wasn't even. Yeah. Exactly.
But the question would then be, the people that are sending out the invites are the ones who are supposed to facilitate and ask the questions that you were asking. Wouldn't it have been appropriate for the Sports Confederation, the Gauteng Sports Confederation, to be the one that's asking the questions?
So I think what you want to do is ask that question to the chairpersons of the 5 districts, because that question was asked by the administrator, and I'm aware of that.
Or the then administrator.
Yeah.
So what happened with that?
The administrator's name was Vivian Lottering.
Yeah.
Vivian was appointed by Barry, what's his name, Hendricks, when Barry was the chairperson of GBA of Gauteng Sports Confederation, and then when Barry, when Vivian got elected as the chairperson of Gauteng Sports Confederation, he then obviously ran out of time to try and work with basketball, and that's where the problem lies.
And then that's when you took it upon yourself to try and make sure that the elections happen.
Yeah, well, you hear the issues. I've got a very good relationship with Vivian because of my work in the Joburg Sports Confederation. So, I always tried to make sure that if there was a basketball issue, that it got dealt with. Not just that, I'll tell you something else now, is that unfortunately, Vivian's engagements with the chairpersons of the districts has not been stellar. Let me put it to you like that. So, for instance, he asked one of the district chairpersons to attend the Oritambo Sonchini planning meetings. That person didn't attend one of the meetings, not one. Okay. Sure. He then switched and he asked for another chairperson to attend. That chairperson came, and it was a complete embarrassment. You know, when you're sitting in a meeting and they ask you, so if you don't know anything, why are you here? That was the question. And it was actually minuted in the meeting.
Jeez.
So, you know, unfortunately, those were some of the issues that came about in Vivian's engagement with the district chairpersons.
Wow. So you said two of the districts associations actually honored the meeting, or at least responded to say they'll be there. Which ones were they?
So I said two of them, the associations. So remember, there's a district association, and
Right.
then there are associate members.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Two of the associate members responded. So 2 out of the 10 membership responded. And remember that the districts carry more votes than the associate members.
Right.
So you need the districts to be there and not necessarily the associate members.
The associate members would have been Samba and
USA.
Samba and USA responded to say they'll be there, and unfortunately the rest of them did not show up, so the elections did not happen.
Correct.
Wow.
Now, post that, there's the problem, and again, you get to this problem, and it's just an unfortunate thing, is that when you ask somebody to do something and it doesn't happen, it breaks trust. And I think, you know, ultimately, the administrator at the time lost trust in the districts in being able to deliver on the mandate. And
now,
you know, with him becoming very busy, this is then what led to the appointment, as you said.
Right. Now you the current administrator with Nel Mutiwa. Why 2 administrators, and what is it that you guys are hoping to do to try and fix it?
It was 1 administrator with Nel being assisting. That's how the letter is drafted. The big issue is to get to elections. That's the big issue. So that's what we need to try and get to. The question I've got now is, have we got functional district associations that, if elections happen, can actually provide proper candidates and can actually then step up to the next level?
Right.
That's the real question, right? So if you look at, and again, I'm going to use GBA as an example. So GBA at the moment is not a functional executive. So 7 positions, if I'm not mistaken. Right now, 3 of them are vacant.
Do you know, in fact, let me ask you this question, right? And I suppose this is where the break comes to play, right? So everybody else complains about basketball on social media. It's easier to type up than actually to be an office bearer. Have you ever found out exactly why people actually do not want to be in these positions? Because, you know, ultimately this is it's a voluntarism type work, and it's a lot of work.
I think I said it already. You know, you've got to dedicate time to this.
Right.
If you're a SG, for instance, okay, you are getting letters the whole time. You are needing to make responses the whole time. You're writing letters the whole time. You're doing these things. It's a big time investment. Okay, you come home, you know, from work. You sit down. You're spending 3 to 4 hours a night, in some instances, on this. When I'm finished this conversation with you now, I need to sit down and work. I'll probably be busy till 10, maybe 11 tonight on, you know, BAL and National Women Club Champs planning. That's just what's going to happen. But, you know, when you make that commitment, it's a big commitment. And then within that, the other problem that you have is that when you make that commitment, you're actually committing to good corporate governance. Now, that's something that I drove very hard with respect to the JBA when I was the chairperson. Guys, we've got to make consistent decisions. We've got to make decisions that's in the best interest of the federation and not of the various clubs. You've got to make decisions that you can defend. And that's a big thing. So what you find is sometimes people, they cannot do both of those things. And that's why you've got vacancies within the structures. Because the people who potentially could do the one are not necessarily people who could do the other.
Do you honestly think that the system of voluntarism would actually work? Because ultimately, if you want to fix basketball, you need to get the right people with the right minds and the right brains and the right experience, all of that combined, and the time to do it while they do their jobs, take care of their families, kids, and all of that. Do we honestly think can we stand in front of government and say we can actually fix basketball, let alone all sports?
So that is the problem. Now, if you look at the more professional sports, you look at rugby, you look at cricket, you look at netball at the moment, you find that they've got professional administrators at all levels. They get paid by the association, from sponsorship money, and that's great. Now, you don't have that in basketball. Okay, so what you do have are people who try and make a difference. And then, of course, on the other side of it, you then get the people who are saying, well, you're being biased, you are not doing these things properly, all those nice fun things. And then you get those people walking away from the sport. Okay, and I'll use myself as an example. So my son, you can see him sitting there behind me. Okay, he's 14 years old, 6'1". Okay, probably a decent power forward in the making. But he's developed a love for rowing. Now, as a father, my love for basketball is one thing, but you got to support your kids. So now there's a question around, okay, cool. What are we going to do? Am I now going to get involved in rowing? And there's a need there, similar to the need in basketball. So what do I do? Do I get, give up basketball, and do I get involved in rowing? So right now I'm doing both. I'm getting involved in rowing, and I'm keeping my involvement in basketball because I've got an obligation to my team, right?
Right.
My team, I've said this is what I'm going to do. I've got an obligation to these kids that are expecting IPTs to happen. I've got an obligation to, the people expecting BAL to happen because I said I'm going to do it. And that's the important bit.
Now, I ask the question again. Given what you know about basketball and the system that is supposed to fix basketball, do you think this is fixable?
It's fixable, but you're going to have people who can spend and dedicate a lot of time to the problem.
And do you think we have those people?
No, I don't think we've got those people right now.
So essentially, this could be a dying horse because everybody else is sitting on the social media, and actually the people that are supposed to do the work are literally not there.
Exactly. There are a couple of people that are interested, are keen to get involved, and all the rest of it, and they've got the skills. Just being keen to be involved doesn't mean you've got the skills. And if you've got the skills, the keenness to be involved isn't necessarily there. And I think we saw that. I mean, I'll use another example from GBA. So we had the Secretary General get elected. He was keen to be involved at first. He saw the amount of work and what it took to actually be involved. And then he resigned and he said, I just cannot do this. It's too much.
How do you think you're going to do this differently?
So the only way, and that's where the problem is, right? Because it's what comes first, the chicken or the egg. So what you've got to do is get basketball to a state where you can actually attract the sponsors. And then once you've attracted the sponsors, you can then appoint professional administrators at all levels in order to make sure that the game is running properly.
It's very simple
to me. But
the
one doesn't come with the other.
It's very simple to me. There's no chicken and egg here. The sponsors won't come until there's basketball. So there's got to be a chicken first. So by that, I mean, there's got to be some people who actually dedicate their time and effort to try and make basketball attractive to sponsors. Otherwise, no one is going to go and get a sponsor where there's nothing and you're promising a sponsor that you'll do X, Y, and Z and they're seeing nothing.
And that's kind of my approach. So if you think about this, right? What I've done is I haven't spoken to any sponsors. That's not my thing. But what I'm doing is I'm saying, right, we need to deliver a product. Okay, and that product can be streamed. I mean, even the product. Sorry, Cabby, give me 1 sec.
Okay. We're just waiting for Gareth. He needs a second. So
sorry, guys.
It's all right. He's back.
I'm back. My apologies.
Right. That's all good.
So what I'm doing is saying we need to deliver a product, right? And if you look at what we've now done is we've looked at how this could work. So we've made sure that the actual product itself is there. The product is in
we're talking
broadcast by
about
the likes of
JBL, or GBA, or BAL, because club championships.
let's look at national men's club champs.
Right.
Right, the product is there. First
Okay.
time in 14 years that there was a national club champs that was delivered, but the product is there. So I'm saying next year what we need to do is look to replicate that product and then to sell it to the point. And that's why I suppose guys like you who are good at selling things come into play. You know, I'm not good at selling things. That's not what I do. I'm
Yo,
good at
Brett
getting
from
things
Wilson,
done.
CEO of Wilson. We'll be talking to you soon.
Yeah, let's talk, right? But the point is, I'm not good at selling things. So you've also got to realize what your limitations are, and you've got to make sure that you play to your strengths. So what is my strength? My strength is planning. My strength is delivery. Okay. Other guys need to come in and deliver and utilize that strength. You know, not and make sure that they can then sell the thing that's being delivered. And I think to the point that you've made, that's kind of where you've pitched it, right? We need to deliver the product.
Right, and unfortunately, the reality is that we're not gonna be able to deliver a national product if we don't have the actual grassroots level sorted, and that's really where the core of the problem is. You know, like you're not gonna have the best teams going to the top and competing at the highest level, because you know, like whatever it is that is the product this year, it was like, okay, whoever can play, let's just do this, and then all of a sudden we have national champs, and you know, you're not having the best teams at the top. So the problem is not necessarily what the product looks like at the top. The problem is how do we get all the districts working so that we can get the best teams to then go up the ranks until they get to national stage.
Exactly. And if you look at it, you know, I mean, one of the key things that I looked to do as part of the JBA was to create that methodology. To create, guys, this is how it's going to work.
How do you attract talent? The right administrators who know exactly what it is that they need to do in their individual portfolios.
You've got to attract them from the perspective of they want to be involved. I want to be involved because I want to grow this thing. Okay, and that starts. And I mean, we speak about the hierarchy of basketball. Okay, we speak about the fact that there's a player. A player belongs to a club. And I use the word belong very colloquially is the right word. So a player doesn't belong to a club, obviously, but I just using that word so we get the sense of it. Then from there, the club belongs to a district. The district belongs to a province, and the province belongs to the national. Okay, that's the hierarchy from the bottom up.
Correct.
So I look at this and I say, right, guys, I'm interested to know what the player is going to do. We can't have a situation where a player is sitting there, he's working his butt off, and there's nowhere for that player to go. But the player must demand. And how does the player demand? The player creates the club. Okay? And then the player must then say, right, guys, this is how I'm going to get involved. This is how we're going to do it. And you can't have this any other way. It doesn't work like that. Because if the players that form the club are not going to be involved and are not going to drive it, then the club is going to go nowhere. Then you get a collection of clubs. And this is exactly what happened with the JBA. The clubs came together, and the motto for the JBA was, Cabby? What was the motto for the JBA? No, you should know it. You're involved.
In the JBA? Jeez, man. The last time I was in the JBA was a while ago. Maybe you guys have come up with new mottos since you started.
No. The motto hasn't changed. It's been, 5 years? For the teams, by the teams.
That's you took it from FUBU, for us by us. Hey, I'm still cool, still young at heart.
But that was the motto. I didn't come up with it, but when it when it came around, that was something that I think people could believe in, right? And then you got, and I mean, you could say for the clubs, by the clubs, for the clubs, or for the teams, we were talking about teams at that stage. But the point there being is the teams must then step up. You can't be sitting there as a player belonging to a club and then say, well, you know what, there's no district association. Because somebody's got to step up.
So here's the thing,
that's
right,
just life.
Gareth? I think what's missing, and it's probably something that people like yourselves, people like Joseph Amangadi, which I will get on this show at some point. We need to start running how to run basketball association portfolios with the right kind of guidance, some sort of like a training program of sorts, because what you're saying is what we need, but how do you achieve that is what we are not addressing. The biggest issue, I believe, is that even if people, like you say, people might be quite eager to want to be involved, but they just don't have the skills to be involved. You know what I mean? And simply because I've never gone through any kind of training on how to become a great administrator. All this that I know about basketball and any administration that I've done has come from my understanding of business and how to run business. But sometimes you just need somebody to actually go out there and train people on how to be an administrator. And I think that could go a long way where, there is literally one of those, whether it's videos being recorded or whatever the case may be, on each and every, like step-by-step process on how to run a good quality administration.
Yes. And that I agree with. And, if you look at what we tried to do between myself and Joseph last year at the beginning of lockdown, is to go through that. So we had sessions, sessions up on Let's Talk, and we were looking to do Zoom calls, to do all those things, to do some training and to work on that. And unfortunately, I think, people were more focused on COVID at the time, and they didn't get a lot of attendance. So I'm more than happy. We look to develop a training course. We look to give coaching into how to run number one, a club, okay, and then number two, an association. And in fact, that's what we're doing as part of the Joburg Sports Confed, where we actually do that exact training. So maybe I should dust that off and then look to roll it out within the basketball community.
I think.
And that may be something that we want to look at, Cabby. I'm more than happy. You've got the platform. we can make sure that it happens.
Absolutely. I think that's probably where we must start. I think if you look, even when you look at municipalities, one of the biggest service delivery issues, it's not because people want to work. It's just that people who are put in those positions just don't know how to run municipalities, and you end up with municipalities under administration, and that's exactly what it is that I'm seeing in basketball. So exactly. Until we train people on how to do this thing properly, we're just going to be running round and round in circles, and we're not going to go anywhere. So I believe it's something to consider very carefully.
No, I'm very comfortable with that. And I think to the point that you've made, we can look at these things and get them done. And, I think it ties into a whole lot of training. It's not just about what's called administration. It's also about coaching. It's also about, technical training, et cetera, and to the point that you've made, it's done in pockets. And it's not done holistically.
Yeah, one thing at a time.
No, exactly.
No, one thing at a time, absolutely. Let me just check with my production team. Looks like we might have to take another break, and then we'll be right back to complete our interview. Thank you so much for still being with us and taking the time off to talk about basketball, bringing your brick. Really, truly appreciate it. Let's take a break now, and we'll be right back. Right. You heard it from the man. He's not gone yet. We're trying to get back at that interview. I thought today to the production team, I was like, you know what, these interviews are running way too long. Gents, let's just keep it from 6 to 7. Let's be professional. Well, we're not going to do that. We want to finish some things because I still got a couple of questions. I hope you are still enjoying the show and learning a thing or two. And those people who have questions to ask, you can DM me. You can post on Let's Talk Basketball under the link for this show. I can try to respond to that. And obviously, you can tag whoever that you need to tag, and make sure that they get to know what your questions are. I might not have all the time in the world to respond to all the questions, but this is a tag team thing, man. I respond, you respond, somebody responds, and that's how we're going to get it out there. But the thing that is coming out strong from this interview is that a lot of people are talking, but there isn't a lot of people that are out there actually doing stuff that needs to be done. Unfortunately, basketball is not going to grow from social media. You literally just need people to be in the offices, writing the letters, working through the night, still going home, take care of the kids, taking care of the family, taking care of work, taking care of business, and all of that stuff. So we have Gareth back, and I know you're learning something from this and some really, really good ideas where that we can actually go out there. And I believe what we must do is go out there and actually train people so that they can be better administrators and be confident. And sometimes it's really about confidence. Some people might be keen, but they're not confident because they don't have the experience. But if you get the training, then you go out there and nice and confident. And Gareth, you're back. I know I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I still have a few questions, and I want us to run through them very, very quickly. And the first one is the fact that we're done with how you're going to manage all of that, district association stuff. I think at the end of the day, it really starts with training, and let's leave it at that. The question that I wanted to find out from you is your view of BAL qualification versus BNL's view. What were the discussions there, and how were they accommodated or not accommodated? Just quickly.
Okay, so very quickly, you'll recall at the 2019 BSA conference that we attended, there was a decision taken. Yeah. And that decision was a simple one in that the club structure is the structure going forward for South African basketball. That meant that every participant needed to be in that club structure in order to then participate in things like national club champs and moving forward from there. Okay, so what that then meant was that in order to be a recognized club, you had to belong to or play in a district association league. Now, if you look at Gauteng or Johannesburg, BNL teams participate in the Joburg Basketball League. So you've got Suns participating in there, you've got Cabby Magic participating in there, and you had a registration from Panthers to participate there. So the same message that everybody else got, BNL got. That's why they participated, and that's why they signed up. Now, to give Suns credit, they had signed up prior to that decision. Cabby Magic signed up post that decision, and Panthers signed up also post that decision. Now, further to that, if you look at it, USA teams also fall into that same category. So it's not just BNL teams. So when you look at it, there was then the intended sign-up into the District League of Johannesburg, of WITS, and obviously UJ already play in that league. So just everybody understood that properly.
Yeah, so just to make sure that everybody understands what it is that you're saying. So you're a professional team, but when it comes to BAL qualifications, you have to almost forget that you're a professional team. You have to come down to everybody's level, participate at district leagues, and work your way up.
Correct. Okay. So that was the decision that was taken. And like I said, sometimes people seem to forget that we do have a national club champs process.
Right.
So we're not just talking BAL, right? I mean, and that's the bit I mentioned earlier. We've got to go through the national club champs, from that perspective. So national club champs, win that, and you get entry into the next stage, which is international competition. And that's how it works everywhere. So the whole point is that the teams, everybody got given the opportunity to participate. And oddly enough, if we look at the likes of Suns, Suns ended, where was it, 5th in the GBA? And they had the opportunity to actually participate in this year's National Club Champs.
Wow. So a professional team came 5th in the District League.
pretty much. Okay.
Okay.
So because the teams that some of the teams that were above them couldn't participate. So if you look at it, the top top teams in the last league or the last league that was run, Phoenix won, Nuggets came second, Phenoms came third, MBB came fourth, and Suns came fifth.
Mm-hmm.
There were three slots allocated to JBA to participate in the provincial competition. Okay, Suns chose not to, and we then ended up with Nuggets versus MBB in that competition.
Gotcha.
Nuggets then beat MBB and they went through.
So
now,
what's the point?
Phoenix,
what's the point of the Suns participating and not wanting to go ahead with the process?
So that was the question. I mean, I honestly asked that question to the Suns management. And
Right.
I said, guys, you've got the opportunity, participate. And they said they'd get back to me, and they never did.
And just explain to the people why Phoenix and Phenoms could not obviously go through.
So Phoenix was going to participate. At the time where the competition was being run, there was a COVID wave in their ranks. So they actually didn't qualify. Not qualify, they actually chose not to participate because of the COVID outbreak. I think
irrespective of the foreign, irrespective of the majority of foreign players in there.
So that there obviously is something that they would have had to address. I don't know if they would have been able to address it, but it's something that they would have looked to address.
And
Phenoms was the foreign player issue, as you mentioned. Okay, they didn't have enough South African players, and the rules are pretty clear with regards to South African players.
All right. Okay.
So to the point, you then get that step down, right? So you step down the first team, first place, second place, third place, and it's an eligibility issue with regards to participating in the national club champs.
And from my view, the BNL's view was to say that we already are participating in the national, in some sort of a professional top tier basketball tournament, and therefore everybody else must go through the process. And how are the teams in BNL decided?
So teams in BNL obviously bought a franchise. So they had nothing to do with anything on the national club or the club champ side. BNL then came along and said that they wanted to join the process at the provincial level. So not at the district level. They wanted to skip district and go straight to province. And the response was, you can't do that. It's a simple process. Everybody starts at district. From district, you go to province, you compete at province. If you win at province, you go to national. And that's how the process ran.
Okay. And obviously that was rejected, and that's how we ended up in Gauteng with MBB and Jozi Nuggets.
Correct.
Right.
But now bear in mind, it would have been the same argument for the USA teams.
Right.
Being the teams, what's the guys called, WITS and the UJ teams would have had the same argument essentially. Now the interesting bit around that is VUT is actually in that process. The VUT men chose not to participate. The VUT women did. So VUT women played in the national club champs this last weekend.
Great. So let's keep it moving, man. We're running out of time, so I just want to make sure that we touch on all the other things. Otherwise, we'll talk all night. How are the preps coming along?
I'm comfortable, Cabby. I'm comfortable as long as you want to chat, I'll chat.
Good. I'm just feeling it for our viewers. Just make sure that it's something that they can listen to and actually listen to the end. Because if it's too long, then they might just get tired of listening to our voices. How are the BNL? I mean the BAL qualifications coming along, and who's footing the bill?
So BAL qualifications are coming along reasonably nicely. We had an issue in Cape Town with the event permit. That's now being, the event was then switched to Johannesburg. We are hosting the event at UJ Soweto campus from the 22nd 22nd to the 24th. So that's Friday to the Sunday. Unfortunately, no spectators allowed, but the event will be broadcast and live streamed by yours truly, Basketball Sheriff,
Whoa!
onto FIBA World. So this event will be broadcast live onto FIBA World, and that's how we will make sure that people can see the event.
That is
Then
pretty
your
cool.
second question.
Yeah, we'll get to the second question. I just want to let people know that, the Tigers came out to practice here at my place. It was really nice having professional players out here. I'm not a groupie, but, I was really, really close to taking pictures with the guys, knowing that they've played in the NBA and all. But I'm really, really, really excited about this. But the team looked good. Practice was really good. They're really, really looking good. They're shooting well, better than what I saw when they were playing against Jozi Nuggets. So this is going to be an amazing, amazing tournament. What are your predictions? What do you think is going to happen?
Honestly, I haven't even thought of it. When you're so deep in the forest, all you can see is the trees.
Right.
And to be honest, I haven't really looked at it. Probably next week, once the games start, I'll go sit with Basketball Sheriff and we can talk about, just the what we're seeing. But right now, I don't really have a prediction. There are 4 teams participating. There is a team from South Africa. There's a team from
Mozambique.
There's a team from Zambia, and there's a team from Mauritius. So those are the 4 teams that are participating. Unfortunately, the other teams couldn't make it from the zone.
How many others couldn't make it?
So Angola obviously has got a
automatic entry
finals, automatic entry. Then Botswana couldn't make it. Lesotho couldn't make it. Eswatini couldn't make it. Zimbabwe couldn't make it. So quite a number of teams who couldn't make it to the event.
All to do with money. Shame, Africa.
All to do with money.
Jeez.
Now your next question.
Who's footing the bill
for this?
Yep.
Okay. So teams do pay a fee to participate. So it's not just their travel, but also their accommodation, etc. And then anything that is not then covered is footed. The bill is footed by the hosting club. So
wow.
That's just the nature of the beast.
Anything from government, BSA, any sponsors, anybody that's trying to help out?
So the Tigers obviously they've appointed a PR manager and a marketing manager. They would obviously be looking to look at sponsorship from that perspective. They could sell some advertising there to the point. This is going live on FIBA World. So last week at the 3-on-3 wheelchair basketball, they had a record number of about 250,000 live views. So suddenly that gives you a lot of views. So
wow.
That's something that they could sell. We anticipate obviously that because this is now it's got a lot of interest. People want to see it. We anticipate that number could be a lot higher. So I'm hopeful that the Tigers marketing team can go off and get some sponsorship for this event, which would mean that obviously we can do it a little bit bigger and a little bit bolder.
Yeah, it might be a long shot to try and get it done so quickly because budgets are not easy to come by. But people who know people know how to make things happen.
Exactly. It's the same. It's the same as we had to make this thing happen in a very short space of time, and part of that is to try and make that marketing, and that PR work for us.
Great.
I say for us, I'm talking just for the event itself.
I hope it all works out. And one last question, which we'll use as our closing. What is the future of you and BAL and qualifiers and basketball, and what are you hoping to achieve in all of this? Are we planning to, or can we expect to see you organizing this next year, or how does it all work out from here?
I honestly don't know, and I'm just being honest about that. So one of the things from my side is that I will finish what I set out to do. I said I'm going to do something, I'm going to finish it, I'm going to do it.
And that's your brick.
That's my brick.
There you go.
So I'll make sure it happens. I see there the zone is, or the competition's up. So what's going to happen next year? I don't know. Already we've been asked to do the women's club champs. That was supposed to happen in Angola. Angola cannot host it. Already I've been asked to do that. I wasn't keen on it, but they twist my arm on that one. I want to do the RPTs at the end of the year, but in order to do that, I've got to get the money for it. So, that's kind of where we stand on that one. For next year, I don't know. And I'm being very honest about that. I'm not standing for any positions anywhere in basketball. I think I just want to get this done this year and then kind of reconsider where to from next year.
Wow.
Like I said too, I may say, well, you know what, guys, it's been fun, but I'm gonna,
Do
focus on
rowing.
my son's row. That's exactly.
You want to go row?
No, not
or at
me.
least help.
Not me.
At least help your son row, so be involved that side.
No, be involved. This is the thing. When you got kids, you've got to be involved in their lives, right? And you can't just, this coming week, I'm going to be out the house for, from Wednesday all the way out to Monday. I'm only coming back on Monday. And that's just part of, what you have to do, being involved in these things. So it takes time away from your family, it takes time away from everybody. And, to the point, how do you justify that if your kids aren't involved in the sport?
True.
So that's it. So to answer your question, I don't know. I really don't.
Right. Look, I'd really like to appreciate what it is that you're doing on behalf of the show, or behalf of the production team and everybody watching this, and the basketball, followers or fans or players. All in all, simply because I've been there, I've done all of the stuff that you're talking about. It takes a lot of energy. I mean, people who are doing ICSL, for example, they literally are living basketball from the time the first whistle goes till the last game. That takes a lot of time. And for people who are quick to criticize, I think they must run a few leagues, or they must be involved to see just how much time this thing takes away from a person, and how draining it is. And you have to deal with players fighting refs, and refs needing to be paid, and organizing venues, and cancelling and scheduling, people don't do it, not registering on time, not paying on time. All of that is messing basketball up. And I'm saying, if you have an issue with Cabby, you have an issue with Gareth, you have an issue with basketball, Sheriff, what is your break? What is it that you're doing? There's gotta be something that you're doing, so that we can even invite you to this show, to come and tell us what it is that you're doing. Stop criticizing. This thing is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. So be a part of it. Remove the weight off of other people. And in fact, if you want to come show, be the host of the show, I'm ready to step up. I'm not getting paid, but we're doing this, giving you all these amazing interviews. Basketball Sheriff is here every Wednesday at night. We got William here doing his amazing things, and some of the hosts that I host this show with. It's a lot of work. What's your break? And with that, I'd like to thank Gareth Jasson. Thank you very much, my man. You're doing a good job. And those people who were worried and wondering what it is that you're trying to do in basketball, and trying to achieve, and try to steal from basketball, whatever the case may be, hopefully they have a different mindset to it all. And like I said, this is hard work. And thank you very much for your hard work, my man. God bless you.
Thank you, Cabby.
Thank you so much. And with that, signing it out, I cannot say it any better than that. I'll see you next week, same time. Peace.